subscribe to Storylab. Now, let's begin this one. The ceremony hall at the Pentagon hummed with restrained formality. Marcus Lane stood at attention in his dress uniform, the weight of 23 years of service pressing against his shoulders more heavily than the medals pinned to his chest. The Secretary of Defense was speaking, words washing over him like white noise. Distinguished service, exceptional valor, operational excellence. Marcus had heard variations of the speech before, delivered in different rooms by different faces, each time feeling more hollow than the last. His eyes drifted to the small audience. Mostly brass, a few politicians, some men from his unit scattered throughout. No family. Lindsay had texted that morning, "Can't make it, Dad. Finals week. Love you." He'd understood. His daughter's mechanical engineering degree at Virginia Tech mattered more than another ceremony. At 22, she was building something real, something that didn't involve 3 a.m. extractions or body counts that stayed classified. The phone in his pocket vibrated twice. Marcus ignored it, focusing on the secretary's closing remarks. The vibration came again, then again. Someone from the audience coughed pointedly. The secretary paused, glancing down at his notes with barely concealed irritation. Marcus's instincts, honed by 2 decades of operations across 4 continents, screamed warning. Lindsay knew better than to interrupt. He reached into his pocket slowly, thumbing the screen alive beneath the fabric. The preview showed a photo. Even thumbnail-sized, he could see it wasn't right. Wrong colors. Wrong shapes. He felt his throat constrict. The secretary was extending his hand. Marcus moved forward automatically, accepting the medal for distinguished service in counter-narcotics operations. Cameras flashed. His hand was being shaken. He was being guided to the side. Through it all, his mind was elsewhere, calculating the fastest route out of this building. The moment protocol released him, Marcus strode toward the corridor, pulling out his phone with hands that had steadied themselves against their own will. He opened the message from Lindsay. The photo loaded in segments. First the background, his living room, the one she'd lived in since she was 7. Then her face, or what remained recognizable of it. Left eye swollen shut, a purple-black mass. Split lip, dried blood trailing down her chin. More bruising along her jawline, her neck. But it was her right eye that destroyed him. Open, staring at the camera with an emptiness he'd only seen in war zones. The text beneath, your neighbor's poker night. 9 men. They took turns. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Marcus stopped walking. The corridor tilted. He put one hand against the wall, pressed his forehead to the cool surface, and forced oxygen into his lungs. 4 breaths. That was all he allowed himself. Then he was moving again, pulling up his contacts as he walked. He selected Major Hayes from JSOC Liaison. I need immediate authorization for a Black Hawk to Richmond. Personal emergency. Highest priority. Colonel Lane, I'll need to escalate. Then escalate. I'm walking to the helipad now. Have it ready in 10 minutes, or I'm taking it anyway. He ended the call. Sent another text to Lindsay. On my way. Don't move. Lock every door. I'm coming. The reply came instantly. Dad, don't. They said you can't do anything. The chief is one of their brothers. They'll bury it. They already told me. Marcus stopped reading. He couldn't. Not yet. Not until he had her somewhere safe. The Black Hawk lifted from the Pentagon helipad 37 minutes after Lindsay's text. Marcus sat in the crew chief seat, headset on, watching the Potomac River slide beneath them. The pilot, a warrant officer named Chun who'd flown him into Sinaloa during the Castillo operation, hadn't asked questions. Good. Marcus pulled out his tablet, opened the encrypted folder that contained everything about his current life. The civilian one, the one he tried to build for Lindsay after her mother died. Their house sat in a development outside Richmond called Pinewood Estates. Quiet. Safe. He'd chosen it specifically for those qualities after his wife Maria's car accident 6 years ago. A place where Lindsay could finish high school without her father's work following her home. He pulled up property records, cross-referencing with social media and local databases. Darren Robbins lived 4 houses down. Age 41, owned a construction company called Robbins & Sons Development. Married to Sonia Robbins, no children. Active in the local Chamber of Commerce. board member at the community center. Marcus pulled up more files. Clark Robbins, chief of Richmond County Police. Younger brother, age 38. 15 years on the force. Appointed chief 2 years ago after a quiet internal investigation had cleared him of excessive force allegations. Marcus recognized the pattern. Complaints that disappeared. Witnesses who changed their stories. He began mapping the other names Lindsay had mentioned. Poker night. 9 men. He pulled traffic camera footage from a neighborhood database. Accessed through old DOD credentials that technically shouldn't work anymore, but did. Thursday night, 3 days ago. 8 vehicles had arrived at the Robbins house between 7 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. The Black Hawk descended toward Richmond. Marcus sent 2 texts. The first to Jared Houston. Need you at my location. Bring Raphael, Mitchell, and Adrian. Full gear. No questions yet. The second to a doctor he'd worked with during the Castillo operation. A woman named Dr. Helen Decker who'd treated civilian casualties and knew how to keep her mouth shut. Need you an address. Trauma case. Female. Cash payment. No records. Both replies came back within seconds. Affirmative. The Black Hawk touched down in the elementary school athletic field 2 blocks from his house. Unauthorized, probably illegal. Marcus didn't care. He jumped out before the skids fully settled, jogging toward a street as Chun lifted off behind him. His house looked exactly as it had when he'd left for the Pentagon ceremony. Lindsay's car sat in the driveway. Lights off inside. He used his key, calling out as he entered. Lindsay? It's Dad. I'm here. Silence. Then from upstairs, a small voice. Bathroom. He took the stairs 3 at a time. The bathroom door was locked. Honey, it's me. Open up. I can't. Her voice broke. I can't let you see me. Lindsay. He kept his voice level, authoritative but gentle. The same tone he used when talking down panicked locals in hostile territory. I already saw the photo. I need to assess your injuries. Open the door. A long pause. Then the lock clicked. The door opened 6 inches. Lindsay stood there, wearing his old army sweatshirt, something she kept from when she was 13. In person, the damage was worse. The photo hadn't captured the handprint bruises on her throat or the way she held her left arm against her body. Marcus stepped inside, closed the door behind him. I have a doctor coming. We're going to get you checked out, okay? Dad, they said. I don't care what they said. He pulled out his phone, began documenting everything with clinical precision. Photos from multiple angles. Start from the beginning. Tell me exactly what happened. Lindsay's story came out in fragments. She'd been home for fall break. Thursday night, Darren Robbins had knocked on the door, said his wife was out of town, and he'd locked himself out. Could he wait inside while the locksmith came? Lindsay had known him for years, seen him at neighborhood barbecues. She'd said yes. The locksmith never came. Instead, cars started arriving. Meant she didn't know. Darren had locked the door, pocketed the key. The poker table was a prop. They planned it. Marcus listened, his face carved from stone. He noted every detail. Names she'd heard, what they'd said, the timeline. 9 men total, including Darren. They'd been drinking, celebrating something. One had mentioned it was a tradition that they did this every few months with different girls. When it was over, when they'd left in the early morning hours, Darren had leaned close to Lindsay and smiled. Your daddy's some kind of military hero, right? Well, my brother's the chief of police. You try to report this, we'll bury it. We'll bury you. We've done it before. We'll do it again. Dr. Decker arrived 40 minutes later. She worked in silence, documenting injuries with professional detachment while Marcus waited downstairs. When she finished, she found him in the kitchen. 3 broken ribs, she said quietly. Severe bruising, internal and external. Torn ligaments in her left wrist. And she paused. She'll need follow-up care. Psychological support. This wasn't just assault, Colonel. This was systematic, organized torture. Marcus nodded once. Bill. No bill. Consider it a favor returned. She touched his arm. Be smart about what you do next. After she left, Marcus sat with Lindsay until she fell asleep, exhausted from reliving everything. Then he went downstairs, poured himself 3 fingers of bourbon, and made a call. Raphael Rollins answered on the first ring. Colonel, how fast can you get here? I'm 40 minutes out. Jared's with me. Mitchell and Adrian are 3 hours behind. Good. When you arrive, park 2 blocks east. Come in through the back. What's the situation? Marcus looked at the photo of Lindsay on the mantle, taken at her high school graduation. She was smiling, holding her diploma, her whole future ahead of her. We're going to war. Raphael Rollins and Jared Houston arrived at 0200 hours. They moved through the darkness like shadows, 2 men who'd spent years learning how to be invisible. Marcus let them in through the back door, finger to his lips. Lindsay was asleep upstairs. In the basement, Marcus had already begun setting up. His old footlocker sat open, contents spread across the workbench. Satellite phone, encrypted laptop, hard drives containing information that officially didn't exist. He'd kept all of it despite regulations, a habit formed from years of operations where official channels moved too slowly and people died waiting for authorization. Raphael was 43, lean and scarred, with the look of someone who'd been to hell and brought pieces of it back with him. Jared was younger, 36, but his eyes were older. They'd both been with Marcus during the Castillo operation, the one that got him the medal today. The one where they dismantled an entire cartel infrastructure in 72 hours. You look like you're about to start World War III, Raphael said, studying the equipment. Marcus turned his laptop around. On screen, 9 driver's license photos arranged in a grid. Thursday night. These 9 men assaulted my daughter in this house. Planned it. Have done it before. Local police chief is one of their brothers. They think they're untouchable. Jared leaned forward, studying the faces. His jaw tightened. They thought wrong. I need information, Marcus said. Everything. Where they work, where they live, who they're connected to, family members, finances, secrets they're hiding. I need to know these men better than they know themselves. And I need it fast. Raphael pulled out his phone. Mitchell and Adrian, arriving at 0500. Put them on surveillance rotation when they get here. I want eyes on every one of these houses by sunrise. What's the play? Jared asked. Marcus looked at his daughter's attackers, one by one. Darren Robbins, the smiling neighbor. Fred Perkins, owned a car dealership. Arthur Piper, high school wrestling coach. Colin Meyer, bank manager. Rodolfo Spencer, city councilman. Brandon Rasmussen, ran a chain of gyms. Joel Fry, real estate developer. Robert Frazier, owned a pawn shop. Benny Reese, worked at the water treatment plant. Pillars of the community. Respected men. Monsters wearing human masks. I'm going to make them disappear, Marcus said. Not kill them. That's too fast. I'm going to erase them from existence so thoroughly that their own families will question if they ever existed at all. Raphael grinned. It wasn't a pleasant expression. You know we're in. They worked through the night. Marcus had access to databases most people didn't know existed, legacy permissions from his years running dark operations. He pulled financials, phone records, text messages, emails. Build a profile of each man's life, looking for pressure points. By dawn, the picture had become clear, and it was worse than he'd imagined. Mitchell and Adrian Little arrived as the sun was rising, 2 more members of Marcus's old unit. They'd driven through the night from Fort Bragg, bringing equipment in a panel van marked as a plumbing company. The team assembled in Marcus's basement, reviewing the intelligence Marcus had compiled. These aren't random predators, Marcus said, displaying financial transactions on screen. They're organized. Look at this. Monthly payments from each of them into an LLC called Safe Harbor Properties. The LLC is owned by Darren Robbins and his brother, Chief Clark Robbins. Near as I can tell, it's a slush fund. They use it to pay off victims, witnesses, sometimes make people relocate. Adrian, the team's communication specialist, pulled up more data. I found sealed court records. At least 4 similar cases in the past 3 years. All settled quietly. All involving one or more of these 9 men. 2 victims left the state afterward. One dropped out of college and moved to California. Another, he paused. Suicide 6 months ago. Family blamed depression. The room fell silent. Marcus felt something cold and hard crystallize in his chest. The police chief, Mitchell, said, he's got to have files, right? Insurance? He does. Marcus brought up a new screen. Clark Robbins keeps a personal storage unit across town, paid for under his wife's maiden name. I pulled his credit card statements. He visits it monthly, always alone. That's where he's keeping his leverage. Jared studied the satellite image of the storage facility. We get those files, we own them all. First, we need to understand their pattern, Marcus said. Raphael, take Adrian. I want to know every place Darren Robbins goes today. Mitchell, Jared, you split up the other 8. I want movement patterns, routines, security systems on their homes. Who has cameras? Who has dogs? Who sleeps with their doors unlocked? What are you going to do? Raphael asked. I'm going to be the concerned neighbor checking on them. At 7 a.m., Marcus walked out his front door wearing his civilian clothes, jeans, flannel shirt, coffee mug in hand. Perfect picture of suburban normalcy. He walked down the sidewalk toward Darren Robbins' house, practicing his smile. Darren was loading tools into his truck, probably heading to a construction site. He looked up as Marcus approached, and Marcus saw the flash of recognition followed by amusement. The bastard was enjoying this. Marcus, heard you were in D.C. for some military thing. How'd it go? Marcus kept his expression pleasant, neighborly. Got a medal. They gave a nice speech. That's great, man. Really great. Darren wiped his hands on his jeans. Hey, I saw Lindsay was home. She doing okay? Thought I heard some noise the other night. The audacity was breathtaking. Marcus wanted to tear him apart right here in broad daylight. Instead, he smiled. You know college kids? Loud TV, probably. Right. Darren's grin widened. He was probing, testing how much Marcus knew. Well, if you folks need anything, you know where to find me. This is a safe neighborhood. We take care of each other. I'm counting on that, Marcus said. He let the words hang in air just long enough to see Darren's smile falter. Then he raised his coffee mug and a mock toast and walked back toward his house. He felt Darren watching him the entire way. Back inside, Marcus sent a text to his team, begin surveillance. Total coverage. I want to know when they breathe wrong. Then he went upstairs to check on Lindsay. She was awake, staring at the ceiling. Dad, I'm here. That helicopter last night. The one I heard landing nearby. That was you, wasn't it? Yes. You came back from the Pentagon in a military helicopter because of my text. Yes. She turned her head to look at him, her one good eye searching his face. What are you going to do? Marcus sat on the edge of her bed, took her hand carefully. I'm going to make sure they never hurt anyone again. But I need you to trust me, and I need you to stay here where it's safe. Can you do that? Are you going to kill them? No. The answer came quickly, definitively. Death is too simple. These men have families, reputations, lives they're proud of. I'm going to take all of that away. I'm going to make them understand what it feels like to have everything stolen from you in a single night. Lindsay was quiet for a moment. Then good. Over the next 48 hours, Marcus's team conducted the most thorough reconnaissance operation of their careers. They tracked the 9 men's movements, photographed their homes, mapped their routines. Adrian hacked their security systems, their phones, their computers. Mitchell posed as a health inspector and walked through 3 of their businesses. Raphael followed Darren to a city planning meeting and documented everyone he spoke with. The information came together in Marcus's basement, building a comprehensive picture of the Predator's world. Darren Robbins was the ringleader. His construction company did contract work for the city, projects approved by his brother, the police chief, and fast-tracked by Rodolfo Spencer, the city councilman. The company was profitable, but not spectacularly so, until Marcus found the second set of books, hidden in an encrypted file on Darren's computer. The construction company was a front. The real money came from Darren and his brother's side business. They identified vulnerable women, college students, women in financial trouble, women with criminal records who wouldn't be believed, and offered them jobs, loans, or help. Once they had leverage, the poker nights began. Afterward, the Safe Harbor LLC would pay settlements with non-disclosure agreements attached. It had been running for at least 5 years. Arthur Piper, the wrestling coach, scouted victims from the high school. Fred Perkins, the car dealer, preyed on women who came in desperate for transportation. Colin Meyer, the bank manager, targeted women with financial problems. Each man had a role in the ecosystem. It's a hunting network, Jared said, staring at the evidence board Marcus had created. They're systematically targeting women and covering for each other. And the police chief makes sure nothing sticks, Raphael added. How many women do you think they've done this to? Marcus had been counting. At least 27 that we can confirm from the LLC payments. Probably more who never came forward at all. Mitchell looked up from his laptop. I got into the storage unit security system. Clark Robbins visited yesterday at 4 p.m., stayed for 18 minutes. He's definitely keeping something there. We need those files, Marcus said. But we can't just take them. If he knows they're gone, he'll lawyer up, claim they were stolen. We need copies. Adrian grinned. I can do that. Give me 2 hours inside that unit. I'll photograph everything and put it back exactly as it was. Do it tonight, Marcus said. Raphael, you're with him. The rest of us start preparing phase 2. That night, while Adrian and Raphael infiltrated the storage unit, Marcus sat with his laptop and began constructing new identities. Not for himself, for his targets. He created shell companies, fake email accounts, fabricated financial records. He built an entire shadow version of the 9 men's lives, one that would slot perfectly into the existing evidence once the trap was sprung. By the time Raphael and Adrian returned at 3 a.m., Marcus had laid the groundwork for 9 simultaneous investigations that didn't exist yet, but would appear completely legitimate once initiated. You got it, he asked as they entered. Adrian was grinning, holding up a portable hard drive. 93 gigabytes of pure evidence. Photos, videos, victim statements they collected as insurance, financial records showing payoffs, and a ledger listing every poker night for the past 5 years. This thing is their entire operation, documented like they were keeping score. Because they were, Raphael said quietly. These sick bastards were competing with each other. They had a point system. Marcus felt his hands curl into fists. He forced them open. Rage was a tool, not a master. He needed control. Good, he said. Now we can start destroying them. The next morning, Marcus put his plan into motion. The first move was subtle. A phone call to the FBI field office in Richmond, routed through an anonymous tip line. He provided just enough information to trigger interest. Possible corruption in the Richmond Police Department, potential connections to organized sexual assault, suggestion of a conspiracy involving local government officials. The FBI wouldn't move immediately. They'd investigate quietly first, gathering preliminary evidence. Marcus would make sure they found plenty. The second move was more immediate. He used Darren's email, accessed through Adrian's hack, to send messages to the other 8 men. Situation developing. Federal interest possible. Meeting at the warehouse tonight, 9 p.m. Come alone, no phones. The warehouse was a property owned by Robbins and Sons Development, currently vacant. Marcus's team had already prepared it, setting up cameras, microphones, and carefully placed evidence that would tell the exact story Marcus wanted told. Only Darren wouldn't be at that meeting. Darren would be somewhere else entirely. At 4 p.m., Marcus walked down his street again, timing it perfectly. Darren was just arriving home, pulling into his driveway. Marcus waved, the friendly neighbor. Hey Darren, got a minute? Want to show you something at my place. That water heater I was telling you about. Darren hesitated, clearly suspicious. But curiosity and arrogance won out. Sure, yeah. Let me grab my tools. Already got everything we need, Marcus said pleasantly. Just take a second. They walked back to Marcus's house together. Marcus opened his garage, gestured Darren inside. The moment Darren stepped past the threshold, Raphael and Mitchell materialized from the shadows. Darren started to shout, but Mitchell's hand clamped over his mouth. A needle slid into his neck, a sedative carefully measured. Not enough to cause permanent harm, but enough to keep him unconscious for several hours. Darren's eyes rolled back. They caught him before he hit the ground. Package secured, Raphael said. Load him up, Marcus replied. It's going to be a long night. The 8 men arrived at the warehouse separately, within 15 minutes of each other. Arthur Piper came first, the wrestling coach, looking nervous. Fred Perkins arrived in a new luxury sedan from his dealership. Colin Meyer checked his watch repeatedly. Rodolfo Spencer, the city councilman, tried calling Darren before entering. The call went to voicemail. Inside, they found an empty space lit by a single overhead bulb. Someone had set up a table with 8 chairs. They sat, growing increasingly agitated as minutes passed and Darren didn't appear. "This doesn't feel right," Joel Fry said, the real estate developer. "Where the hell is he?" "Maybe he got picked up," Brandon Rasmussen suggested, the gym owner. "Federal interest." Those were serious words. "We've been careful," Colin insisted. "The chief monitors everything. We're protected." "Are we?" Rodolfo stood, pacing. "Because I don't like being summoned to an empty warehouse like some kind of criminal." "You are criminals," a voice said from the darkness. All 8 men jumped, chairs scraping back. Marcus stepped into the light, wearing his uniform this time. He wanted them to see exactly who they'd hurt, who had come for them. Recognition dawned on Arthur's face first. You're Lindsay's father, the military guy. Colonel Marcus Lane," Marcus said calmly. "I commanded the joint task force that eliminated the Castillo cartel. 340 confirmed kills in 72 hours. Operation Ghost Protocol. You might have read about it, though most details remain classified." The men were backing toward the door. Fred Perkins reached it first, yanked the handle. Locked. The FBI received an anonymous tip about police corruption in Richmond. Marcus continued, walking slowly forward. "They're investigating. But investigations take time, and I'm not a patient man. So I gathered additional evidence for them. Would you like to see?" He pulled out a tablet, began showing photographs. The men from the storage unit. Financial records. Victim testimonies. Their own text messages to each other, discussing targets and timing. "This can't be legal," Collins sputtered. "This is entrapment, illegal search." "I didn't use a warrant," Marcus agreed. "I used skills I learned hunting terrorists. Skills that don't require warrants. And every piece of evidence here, I'll be giving it to the FBI tomorrow morning. Along with these." He played a video. Audio only, but clear. Darren's voice. "We've been doing this for years. My brother covers for us. He's the chief. We're untouchable." Brandon's face went white. Where did you?" "Your friend Darren is very talkative when he's motivated to be," Marcus said. "He's currently explaining your entire operation to a digital recorder. Names, dates, victims. Everything." "Where is he?" Robert Frazier demanded, the pawn shop owner. "What did you do to him?" "Nothing permanent. Yet." Marcus's smile was cold. "But here's what's going to happen. You're going to confess. All of you. You're going to walk into the FBI office tomorrow at 9 a.m. and detail every crime you've committed. Every victim, every payoff, every cover-up. And if we don't," Rodolfo tried to sound defiant, but his voice shook. "Then I'll do to you what I did to the Castillo cartel," Marcus said simply. "I'll hunt you down one by one. Not kill you. That would be mercy. I'll destroy everything you've built. Your businesses, your families, your reputations. I'll make sure every person you've ever hurt knows your name. And then, when you have nothing left, when everyone you love has abandoned you, when you're hollow and broken, I'll deliver you to people who are very interested in making examples of men like you." He paused, letting that sink in. "I have contacts in cartels, gangs, prisons across this country, and several others. Men who have very strong feelings about sexual predators. Men who would pay me for the opportunity to get their hands on you. How long do you think you'd last?" Arthur was crying now, the wrestling coach who'd scouted victims from his own team. "Please, I have a family. I made a mistake." "You made a choice," Marcus cut him off. "For years. Multiple victims. My daughter is one of many. Those other girls had families too. Did you think about them?" "The chief," Joel said desperately. "He'll never let us confess. He'll stop us." "The chief is not your problem anymore," Marcus said. "I am. And trust me when I tell you that I am much, much worse than any police chief." He pulled out his phone, showed them another photo. Darren, sitting in a chair in an undisclosed location, answering questions. Defeated. Broken. "Your ringleader already gave you up," Marcus said. "He's cutting a deal with federal prosecutors as we speak. They want the bigger fish, the police chief. You're all just supporting players now. The question is, do you want to cooperate and possibly reduce your sentences, or do you want to take your chances with me?" Silence. Then Fred Perkins, the car dealer, slumped forward. What do you want us to do? Marcus pulled out a stack of papers. These are confessions. Written statements detailing your crimes. You're going to sign them, date them, and tomorrow morning you're going to walk into the FBI field office with your lawyers and hand them over. Am I clear? One by one, they signed. Some were shaking so hard they could barely hold the pen. Others signed quickly, hoping compliance would save them. Marcus collected each signature, witnessing them with Jared and Mitchell, who'd emerged from the shadows as witnesses. One more thing, Marcus said as they finished. If any of you try to run, contact each other, or warn the chief, I will know. I have eyes on all of you. Your phones are compromised. Your homes are monitored. If you deviate from these instructions by even an inch, my mercy ends. Do you understand? 8 voices murmured agreement. Good. Now get out of here. Except you, Arthur. The wrestling coach froze as the others rushed for the door, which Mitchell had unlocked. They fled into the night, leaving Arthur standing alone with Marcus. I have a daughter, Arthur whispered. Please. She's only 15. I know, Marcus said. Madison Piper, star of the middle school track team. She thinks you're a hero. He stepped closer. How would she feel if she knew what you really were? What you did to girls her age. Arthur's face crumpled. Don't tell her. Please. It'll destroy her. You should have thought about that before. Marcus pulled out his phone. I'm not telling your daughter anything, but the news will. The trials will. Every parent in this city will make sure their children know what you did. You'll lose her, Arthur. She'll change her name, pretend you never existed, and spend years in therapy wondering what kind of monster raised her. That's your punishment. Watching the person you love most realize who you really are. He gestured toward the door. Now, get out. Arthur stumbled away, sobbing. The warehouse fell silent. Raphael emerged from the shadows. That was brutal. It was necessary, Marcus replied. Fear keeps them compliant until the FBI takes over. After that, the system handles them. What about the chief? Mitchell asked. He's the linchpin. Without him, this whole thing unravels. Marcus checked his watch. The chief is being handled. Right now, across town, Chief Clark Robbins sat in his home office, reviewing reports. His wife was asleep upstairs. Everything was quiet, normal. His phone rang, private number. Chief Robbins. Good evening, Chief. My name is Special Agent Jennifer Hawkins, FBI Public Corruption Unit. The voice was professional, cold. We need to discuss your brother, Darren Robbins, and certain activities involving Richmond PD officers. Clark's blood went cold. I don't know what you're talking about. We have extensive evidence of a criminal conspiracy, Chief. Financial records, victim testimonies, video evidence. Your brother is currently in federal custody and has been cooperating fully. We know about safe harbor properties, the payoffs, the cover-ups. We know everything. My brother would never. He already did. We're offering you an opportunity, Chief. You can come in voluntarily tomorrow morning, make a statement, and potentially cooperate. Or we can arrest you publicly in front of your officers, in front of the media. Your choice. Clark's mind raced. This was impossible. They've been careful. The storage unit. Had someone found it? I need to speak with my lawyer. Of course. We'll expect you at our field office tomorrow at 11 a.m. Come alone, Chief. And don't try to run. We have agents positioned at every exit from the city. The line went dead. Clark sat in the darkness, mind spinning. He needed to contact Darren, warn the others, get ahead of this. He grabbed his personal phone, the burner he kept for sensitive communications, pulled up his brother's number. The phone rang once, then a voice answered. Not Darren's voice. A voice Clark recognized from his service as a beat cop, a voice that still gave him nightmares. Hello, Chief. Looking for your brother? Lane. The name came out as a gasp. Marcus Lane. I prefer Colonel. Your brother is safe, for now. He's been very helpful, Clark. Told me all about your arrangement. The victims, the payoffs, the way you made evidence disappear. It's impressive, really. A whole system of abuse, running right under everyone's noses. You can't do this. I'm a police chief. I have immunity. You have nothing, Marcus said quietly. Your own officers are going to arrest you. Your brother is giving testimony against you. Your 8 friends from poker night are all confessing. That FBI call you just got? That was real. Special Agent Hawkins is real, and she's very interested in you. This is illegal. Whatever you did, however you got this information, is irrelevant. The FBI doesn't care how I obtain the evidence. They care that it's real, that it's damning, and that your victims deserve justice. You should have thought about legality before you spent 5 years covering up sexual assaults. Clark tried to think to find a way out. What do you want? Money? I can pay you. You can't pay me anything I need, Marcus interrupted. But I'll tell you what's going to happen. Tomorrow morning, you're going to the FBI office. You're going to confess everything. You're going to implicate everyone involved in this operation. And you're going to do it because if you don't, I will release every piece of evidence I have to every news organization in Virginia. I'll make sure the whole world knows that the Richmond police chief ran a sexual assault ring. You're bluffing. Am I? Try me, chief. Run. Hide. Try to destroy evidence. Every move you make, I'll be watching. I have her phones tapped. I have surveillance on your house. I have operatives who can reach you anywhere you go. And if you make me work for it, if you make me hunt you down, then when I find you, and I will find you, what happens next will make prison look like a vacation. Silence on the line. Clark's hand was shaking so hard, he almost dropped the phone. Your brother learned this lesson already. Marcus continued. You're not untouchable. You're not protected. You're just another criminal who thought you were too smart to get caught. Tomorrow, 11 a.m., FBI office. Be there. The line went dead. Clark sat in the darkness, everything crashing down around him. His career, his reputation, his freedom, all of it ending because of one girl. One stupid college girl who was supposed to keep her mouth shut like all the others. He picked up his desk phone, dialed his lawyer. Time to salvage what he could. Marcus ended the call and handed the burner phone to Adrian, who immediately destroyed it. They were in a safe house 20 miles outside Richmond, a property Marcus had rented under a false name. Darren Robbins sat in a chair in the corner, still sedated but alive. He'd served his purpose. His confession, coerced but recorded, would corroborate everything the FBI was about to receive. Think he'll show? Jared asked. He'll show, Marcus said. He's a coward. Cowards always cooperate when the walls close in. And if he doesn't? Marcus smiled without humor. Then we moved to phase 3. His phone buzzed. A text from a lawyer he'd hired, a woman named Rachel Crawford who specialized in victim advocacy. She'd been gathering statements from the other victims, the women who'd been silenced by Safe Harbor LLC. With Clark's world collapsing, those women were finally willing to come forward. Have 12 confirmed testimonies, the text read. 3 more pending. They're ready to go public. Marcus replied, hold them for now. Wait until after the arrest tomorrow. Then coordinate with the FBI. The dominoes were falling exactly as he'd planned. By morning, the FBI would have confessions from 8 perpetrators, evidence from the storage unit, financial records proving conspiracy, and victim testimony. The case against Clark Robbins would be airtight. And Marcus would have kept his hands technically clean. No murders, no obvious crimes. Just careful manipulation, psychological warfare, and the strategic application of fear. Raphael was watching him. You know they'll investigate how this all came together. The FBI isn't stupid. Let them investigate, Marcus said. They'll find an anonymous tipster, some leaked documents, and a group of criminals who voluntarily confessed. Nothing that traces back to me. Your daughter, Mitchell said quietly. She's the victim in this. They'll want to talk to her. She'll be ready, Marcus replied. Dr. Decker has been helping her prepare her statement. Lindsay Strong. She'll testify if needed. He looked at his team. These men who'd followed him into hell and back, who'd trusted him enough to break a dozen laws in pursuit of justice. Tomorrow, when this breaks, you all disappear. Back to your lives, your bases, your families. This operation never happened. We were never here. And you? Jared asked. I stay with my daughter, Marcus said. I help her heal. I'll make sure she knows that monsters don't win, not when someone fights back. Adrian cleared his throat. What about him? He gestured to Darren, still unconscious. He gets dropped at the FBI office in the morning, anonymous delivery. They'll find him with a full confession, physical evidence linking him to multiple crimes, and a very cooperative attitude once he wakes up. He'll spend the next 20 years in federal prison, which is more mercy than he deserves. Marcus stood, looking at each of his men. Thank you. All of you. This wasn't a sanctioned operation. You took risks for a personal matter. I won't forget that. You do the same for any of us, Raphael said simply. That's why we came. They spent the rest of the night cleaning up, erasing traces of their presence. By dawn, the safe house was empty except for Darren, who they left zip-tied in the back of an unmarked van parked outside the FBI field office with a note pinned to his shirt. One of 9. The others are coming. Marcus drove home as the sun rose, exhausted but satisfied. The hardest part was over. Now came the waiting. At 8:47 a.m., Fred Perkins walked into the FBI field office with his lawyer. His hands shook as he handed over his signed confession. The FBI agents, already alerted by Marcus's anonymous tip, accepted it with grim efficiency. At 9:02 a.m., Arthur Piper arrived, eyes red from crying. His confession matched Fred's, adding details about victims from the high school. By 9:30 a.m., all 8 men had surrendered. The FBI agents conducting intake interviews couldn't believe their luck. A major criminal conspiracy, solving itself through voluntary confessions. It was unprecedented. At 10:47 a.m., agents found Darren Robbins in the van outside, still groggy from sedation. His confession was the most detailed, naming every victim he could remember, describing the whole operation. At 10:58 a.m., Special Agent Jennifer Hawkins called Chief Clark Robbins' cell phone. Chief, we're waiting for you. Are you coming voluntarily, or do I need to send agents to your home? At 11:03 a.m., Clark Robbins arrived at the FBI office, flanked by 3 lawyers. He was pale, defeated, but trying to maintain dignity. The booking process stripped him of that quickly. By noon, the arrests were public. Every major news outlet in Virginia was covering it. Richmond police chief arrested in sexual assault conspiracy. The details were scandalous, horrifying. 9 men, years of abuse, systematic cover-ups. By evening, the entire city was in an uproar. Parents were pulling children from Arthur Piper's wrestling program. Customers were boycotting Fred Perkins' dealership. Colin Myers Bank had suspended him pending investigation. Rodolfo Spencer was facing recall petitions. Marcus watched the news coverage from his living room, Lindsay beside him on the couch. She was still healing, still processing, but she was sitting up now, watching her attackers be paraded in handcuffs. Dad, she said quietly, how did you do this? How did you make all of them confess? Marcus considered lying, giving her a sanitized version. But Lindsay was an adult, and she deserved the truth. I scared them. I showed them evidence of their crimes. I threatened to do worse to them than prison could, and I made them believe that confessing was their only option. Did you hurt them? No, I didn't have to. Fear was enough. Lindsay was quiet for a long time, watching the chief being led into the courthouse. Good, she finally said. I'm glad they're afraid. I'm glad they're going to prison. They'll be there for a long time, Marcus said. The federal charges alone will keep them locked up for decades. And in prison, men who hurt women, they don't do well. I know. Lindsay leaned against him carefully, mindful of her ribs. Thank you, Dad. You never have to thank me for protecting you, Marcus replied. That's what I'm here for. They sat together, watching justice unfold on television, as the city their attackers had terrorized began to heal. 3 days later, Marcus received a visit from Special Agent Hawkins. She arrived at his house in the afternoon, badge displayed, expression professional. Colonel Lane, I'm Agent Hawkins, FBI. I'd like to ask you a few questions about the recent arrests. Marcus invited her in, offered coffee. They sat in his living room, Hawkins with a notepad, Marcus with the easy confidence of someone who'd prepared for this conversation. Your daughter was one of the victims, Hawkins began. I'm sorry for what happened to her. Thank you. She's filed a detailed statement with us. It's compelling, credible. She's a very brave young woman. She is. Hawkins studied him. Colonel, I'll be direct. The timing of these arrests is remarkable. You returned from the Pentagon on Thursday evening. By Sunday morning, we had 9 confessions and a mountain of evidence. That's an extraordinary coincidence. I wouldn't know anything about that, Marcus said calmly. I'm a military officer. When my daughter was hurt, I contacted the FBI through your tip line. I assumed you would investigate. We did, and we found evidence that had been meticulously compiled, organized, and documented. Security footage we didn't have warrants for yet. Financial records that would have taken weeks to subpoena. And somehow, all 9 suspects decided to confess simultaneously. Sounds like good police work, Marcus suggested. Hawkins smiled tightly. Colonel, we know you have extensive experience in covert operations. We know you commanded units that specialized in psychological warfare and intelligence gathering. We know you have resources and skills that most people don't. I'm retired from active combat operations. Are you? She leaned forward. Because it seems to me that someone with your exact skill set conducted a highly sophisticated operation over the course of a few days. Someone who knew how to gather evidence, intimidate suspects, and manipulate them into confession. Marcus met her gaze steadily. Agent Hawkins, are you accusing me of something? No. Actually, I'm here to tell you that we're not going to investigate how this evidence came into our possession. Between you and me, off the record, those men confessed to horrific crimes. They're going to prison for a very long time. The victims are getting justice. That's what matters. She stood, tucked her notepad away. But I need to be clear about something, Colonel. Whatever you did, however you did it, it can't happen again. The FBI handles criminal investigations. Not military officers, even retired ones. Not vigilantes, even righteous ones. Do you understand? Perfectly. Good. She headed toward the door, paused. Your daughter is testifying at the preliminary hearing next week. Her testimony will help ensure these men never see freedom again. Tell her the Bureau appreciates her courage. After she left, Marcus sat alone for a moment. He'd gotten away with it, barely. The FBI knew, or strongly suspected, but they couldn't prove anything. And more importantly, they didn't want to. The case was too clean, too perfect. Investigating Marcus would only complicate it. His phone buzzed. A text from Raphael. Heard the FBI paid you a visit. Everything okay? Marcus replied, all clear. Operation Ghost Protocol officially closed. He deleted the message, then deleted the entire conversation thread. Precaution. Upstairs, he heard Lindsay moving around. She was getting stronger, physically healing. The psychological wounds would take longer, he knew. But she had a therapist now. Dr. Decker had recommended someone excellent. And she had a father who would move heaven and earth to make sure she felt safe again. Marcus climbed the stairs, knocked on her door. Lindsay? Want to take a walk? Fresh air might be good. The door opened. His daughter stood there, still bruised but steady on her feet. Yeah, she said. Yeah, I'd like that. They walked around the neighborhood together, Marcus matching her slow pace. People waved at them. Neighbors who'd seen the news, who knew now what had happened. Some offered sympathetic looks. Others looked away, embarrassed that such a thing had occurred in their quiet suburb. They passed Darren Robbins' house. A for sale sign sat in the yard. Sonia Robbins had filed for divorce the day after her husband's arrest and moved out within 48 hours. The house stood empty now, a monument to the destruction one man's evil had caused. Good, Lindsay said, looking at the vacant house. I'm glad she left him. She didn't deserve what he did either. They continued walking, reaching the small park at the end of the development. They sat on a bench together, watching children play on the swings, parents watchful and protective. Dad, Lindsay said, what you did, was it legal? Marcus considered the question. Parts of it were legal. Parts were in a gray area. And parts. He paused. Parts would have gotten me arrested if anyone could prove it. But you did it anyway. Yes. Why? You risked your career, your freedom. Why would you do that for me? Marcus turned to look at his daughter, this brilliant young woman who looked so much like her mother. Because you're my daughter. Because you were hurt, and the system that was supposed to protect you was corrupted. Because I had the skills to fix it, and I wasn't going to let those men walk free. And because... He took her hand. Because I promised your mother, when she died, that I would always keep you safe. I failed that promise last week. I had to make it right. Tears streamed down Lindsay's face. You didn't fail. You can't protect me from everything. But what you did after... Dad, you saved me. You saved all those other women too. I just did what any father would do. No, Lindsay said firmly. Most fathers would have called the police, trusted the system. You knew better. You knew the system was broken. So you fixed it yourself. They sat in silence for a while, watching the sun move across the sky. Finally, Lindsay spoke again. I'm going to testify at the trial. I'm going to tell everyone what they did, look them in the eyes, and make sure they know they don't scare me anymore. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You gave me justice, Dad, but I need to face them. I need to take my power back. Marcus felt his chest tighten with pride. His daughter was stronger than he'd ever imagined. Then I'll be there with you. Every step. The preliminary hearing took place 2 weeks later. The federal courthouse was packed with media, victims, families. Marcus sat in the front row as Lindsay took the stand, dressed professionally, her bruises fading but still visible. She told her story with calm precision, looking directly at her attackers as she described what they'd done. Several of them looked away, unable to meet her gaze. Darren Robbins stared at the table, broken and defeated. Chief Clark Robbins was absent. He'd taken a plea deal, turning state's evidence in exchange for a reduced sentence. When the defense attorneys tried to cross-examine Lindsay, suggesting she'd been drinking, that she'd invited the attention, that she couldn't be sure of every detail, she responded with facts. Dr. Decker's medical report, the toxicology screen showing she'd been drugged, the text messages the men had sent each other afterward, bragging about their conquest. The prosecution had so much evidence that the defense barely mounted a case. By the end of the day, the judge had bound all 9 men over for trial. Bail was denied for all of them, flight risk and danger to the community. Walking out of the courthouse, Lindsay was approached by several women, some around her age, others older. Marcus recognized a few from the victim statements Rachel Crawford had compiled. "Thank you," one woman said, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you for being brave enough to speak up. They did this to me 3 years ago. I was too scared to report it." "Me too," another said. 2 years ago, they threatened me, paid me to stay quiet. But now I'm going to testify too." More women came forward, each sharing their story, each thanking Lindsay for breaking the silence. Marcus watched his daughter become a symbol of resilience, of refusing to be victimized twice by staying quiet. Rachel Crawford approached Marcus as the crowd dispersed. "That was powerful. Your daughter is remarkable." "She is," Marcus agreed. "The prosecution wants to call you as a character witness," Rachel said, "to establish Lindsay's credibility or normal behavior patterns. You'd only need to testify for a few minutes. I'll do whatever helps the case." "Good." Rachel hesitated. "Colonel, off the record, I've been a victim's advocate for 15 years. I've never seen a case come together this quickly or this completely. It's like someone gift-wrapped these criminals for prosecution." Marcus kept his expression neutral. "Sometimes justice works the way it's supposed to." "Sometimes," Rachel agreed, but her look suggested she knew better. "Either way, thank you. What you did, whatever you did, it gave these women their lives back." She walked away, leaving Marcus alone outside the courthouse. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the steps. He thought about the past few weeks, the choices he'd made, the lines he'd crossed. No regrets. He'd saved his daughter and prevented these predators from harming anyone else. That was enough. His phone buzzed, a text from Jared. "Saw the news. Your girl did great. We're all proud." Marcus smiled, replied, "She's stronger than any of us. Thanks for everything." The response came quickly. "Anytime, Colonel. You know where to find us if you need us again." Marcus hoped he never would, but it was comforting to know that if he did, if anyone ever threatened his family again, he had brothers who would answer the call without question. He deleted the messages, then went to find Lindsay. She was talking to a reporter, describing how important it was for assault victims to speak up, to not let fear silence them. She was already turning her trauma into advocacy, already thinking about how to help others. Maria would have been so proud. The trial took place 4 months later. By then, 23 victims had come forward, each adding their testimony to the mountain of evidence. The jury deliberated for 6 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all counts for all 9 defendants. Sentencing came 2 weeks after that. Federal Judge Maria Castillo, no relation to the cartel Marcus had dismantled, delivered scathing condemnations before handing down sentences. Darren Robbins, 25 years federal prison, no parole. Chief Clark Robbins, 18 years, credit for cooperation. Arthur Piper, 22 years. Fred Perkins, 20 years. Colin Meyer, 21 years. Rodolfo Spencer, 23 years. Brandon Rasmussen, 20 years. Joel Fry, 19 years. Robert Frazier, 20 years. Benny Reese, 18 years. Civil suits followed, filed by victims against the men's estates, their businesses, their insurance companies. The Safe Harbor LLC was dissolved, its assets seized and distributed to victims. Robbins and Sons Development filed for bankruptcy. Every business connected to the conspiracy crumbled. And in a twist that particularly satisfied Marcus, news of the crime spread through the prison system. Within 6 months, 3 of the 9 had been assaulted by other inmates. 2 were in protective custody. Darren Robbins had lost 3 teeth and broken his jaw in an altercation with a cellmate whose daughter had been sexually assaulted. Marcus didn't celebrate that violence, but he didn't mourn it either. They'd created victims. Now they were experiencing what that felt like. Lindsay returned to Virginia Tech the following semester. She changed her major to social work, focusing on trauma counseling. She started a campus organization for assault survivors. She turned her pain into purpose. And Marcus went back to his work, though differently now. He took a position at the Pentagon as an advisor, desk work mostly, but it kept him close to home. Close to Lindsay, in case she needed him. 6 months after the trial, he received an encrypted email. No sender, no signature. Just a message. Operation Ghost Protocol has been noted. Your handling of a domestic situation using unconventional methods was observed. While we cannot officially condone your actions, there may be future situations where a similar approach would be valuable. Consider this an informal recruitment. Respond only if interested. Marcus read the email 3 times, then deleted it permanently. He'd crossed lines to save his daughter, but he wasn't interested in becoming an assassin or a vigilante for hire. That wasn't who he was. But deep down, he knew that if someone threatened Lindsay again, if anyone ever hurt someone he loved, he wouldn't hesitate to use those same skills, those same connections, that same ruthless efficiency. Some monsters could only be stopped by someone willing to become monstrous themselves. Marcus had learned that in Sinaloa when hunting cartels. He'd relearned it in Richmond, hunting predators closer to home. The difference was, he could live with what he'd done, because unlike his targets, he'd acted to protect, not to harm. He'd used fear as a tool, not a weapon. And he'd made sure that justice, however imperfect, was ultimately served. 1 year after the attacks, Lindsay graduated from Virginia Tech with highest honors. Marcus sat in the audience, watching her cross the stage, diploma in hand. She'd survived trauma that would have destroyed many people. Instead, she'd grown stronger, more determined, more compassionate. After the ceremony, they went to dinner, just the 2 of them. They'd invited others, but both had quietly wanted this time alone. I got a job offer, Lindsay said over appetizers. A nonprofit in D.C. that advocates for assault survivors. They want me to help develop peer support programs. That's wonderful, Marcus said. Are you going to take it? I am. I start in 2 weeks. She paused. I know you wanted me closer to home. I want you to be happy, Marcus interrupted. And if helping others heal helps you heal, then D.C. is exactly where you should be. Lindsay smiled, the first truly relaxed smile he'd seen since before the attacks. I'm okay now, Dad. Really okay. What happened? It'll always be part of my story. But it's not my whole story. Those men try to break me. They failed. They failed because you're stronger than they could imagine. I'm strong because I had you. Because you showed me that monsters can be beaten. That justice is possible, even when the system fails. She reached across the table, took his hand. I know what you risked for me. I know the things you probably did that you'll never talk about. And I know that every man who hurt me is in prison because you made it happen. Marcus started to protest, but she squeezed his hand. It's okay, Dad. I'm not asking for details. I just want you to know that I understand. You protected me the only way you could, and I'll always be grateful for that. They finished dinner, talking about Lindsay's new job, her apartment search in D.C., her plans for the future. Normal things. Healing things. As they walked to the car, Marcus's phone buzzed. Another encrypted message, different sender. Richmond situation noted. Your daughter's advocacy work is impressive. Should she ever need resources or support, certain agencies would be willing to help. Consider us friends. Marcus showed Lindsay the message. You've got fans in high places. She read it, laughed. Is this from the CIA or something? Something like that. Marcus deleted the message. They respect what you're doing. So do I. They drove home through the Virginia night, father and daughter, survivors of a battle that had tested them both. The scars remained physical, emotional, psychological. But they'd won. Against corruption, against predators, against a system designed to protect the powerful. And in winning, they'd helped ensure that 23 other women got justice. That dozens more who might have been targeted were now safe. That a network of abuse spanning 5 years had been dismantled completely. The cost had been high. Marcus had broken laws, violated ethics, used skills meant for war against American citizens. He'd become judge, jury, and executioner in everything but the final sentence. But seeing Lindsay now, confident and purposeful, trauma transformed into mission, he knew he'd make the same choices again. Every single one. Some battles weren't fought in distant countries against foreign enemies. Some battles were fought at home, against monsters who wore respectable faces. And sometimes, those battles required a soldier willing to cross lines that others wouldn't. Marcus had been that soldier. He'd wage his war with precision, with purpose, and with absolute commitment. He'd won. And when the call came again, because it would come again for Lindsay or someone else he loved, he'd be ready. The weapons might change, the tactics might evolve, but the core mission remained constant. Protect those who can't protect themselves. Stand between innocence and evil. Make the monsters afraid of the dark for once. That was what fathers did, what soldiers did, what Marcus Lane would always do, no matter the cost. In his pocket, his phone buzzed one final time. Another encrypted message, this one signed simply, RF. Raphael. Until next time, Colonel. Stay sharp. Marcus smiled, typed a single-word reply always. Then he deleted everything, closed his phone, and focused on the road ahead. His daughter beside him, the demons behind them, and a future they'd fought for spread out like a promise. They'd won, and that was enough.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.